It was the last day on Earth, and the world was in a state of panic. People were running around, not knowing what to do or where to go. The news had reported that a massive asteroid was going to hit the planet, and there was no way to stop it. Lena was sitting in her apartment, alone and scared. She had always been a loner, but now she wished she had someone to talk to. She turned on the TV, hoping for some information, but all she saw were people crying and screaming. As the day progressed, Lena decided to take a walk. She wanted to see what was happening outside, to see if anyone else was out and about. She walked through the park and saw families sitting together, holding hands and praying. Lena felt a pang of regret. She had always kept to herself, never really connecting with anyone. But now, on the last day on Earth, she wished she had someone to hold her hand and tell her everything was going to be okay. As the sun began to set, Lena made her way back to her apartment. She sat on her bed, staring at the ceiling, and wondered what the end would be like. Would it be quick and painless, or long and agonizing? Just then, Lena heard a knock at the door. She got up and opened it, expecting to see someone she knew. But instead, a stranger was standing there, smiling at her. "Hi, my name is John. I live down the hall," he said. "I know we haven't talked much, but I wanted to come over and see how you're doing." Lena was taken aback. She had barely spoken to John before, but now he was here, on the last day on Earth, checking up on her. They talked for a while, about life and love and the things that mattered. They laughed and cried and hugged each other, knowing that they only had a few hours left. As the night grew darker, they sat on the rooftop of the building, watching the stars twinkle in the sky. They held hands, taking comfort in each other's company. When the asteroid finally hit, Lena was with John. She knew she wasn't alone, and that made all the difference in the world. The impact of the asteroid was devastating. The earth shook and trembled, and the sky lit up in a bright, blinding light. Lena and John held on to each other, as the world around them crumbled. And then, it was over. The noise and chaos disappeared, leaving only silence and darkness. Lena and John looked up and saw that the sky was now clear. They sat there, holding hands, not knowing what to do or say. But then, they heard a noise coming from the rubble. It was a cry for help. Lena and John got up and went to investigate. They saw a woman, buried under the debris of a collapsed building. They worked together to free her and carried her to safety. As they made their way through the ruined city, Lena and John came across other survivors. They helped as many people as they could, giving them food and water, and helping them find shelter. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. The world was now a different place, but people were still living. Lena and John had formed a community of survivors and were helping each other rebuild their lives. Lena realized that the last day on Earth had taught her an important lesson. She had always thought that life was about material things and possessions, but now she knew that it was about love and connection. She looked at John and saw the light in his eyes. They had both survived the end of the world and had found each other in the process. Lena knew that this was just the beginning of their journey together. They had a whole new world to explore, and she was excited to do it with John by her side. As they continued to rebuild their community, Lena and John found that they were not alone in their journey. Other groups of survivors had also come together, forming small communities that shared resources and helped each other through the difficult times. Lena and John had become leaders in their community, helping to coordinate efforts to rebuild infrastructure and restore basic services like water and electricity. They also helped to create new systems of governance, ensuring that everyone had a say in how their community was run. As they worked together, Lena and John's relationship deepened. They fell in love and knew that they wanted to spend the rest of their lives together. One day, as they were walking through the ruins of the city, they stumbled upon an old church. It was still standing, despite the destruction all around it. Lena and John went inside and found that it was still intact, with the pews and altar undisturbed. They both fell to their knees and began to pray. Lena prayed for the strength to continue to help others, and for the courage to face whatever challenges lay ahead. John prayed for the love and protection of Lena, and for the wisdom to lead their community with compassion and fairness. As they left the church, Lena and John knew that they had found something special. They had found hope and a renewed sense of purpose. They knew that they were not alone in the world, and that as long as they had each other, they could face anything that life threw at them. Years passed, and Lena and John grew old together. They had rebuilt their world and had created a new society that was fair, just, and compassionate. They knew that they had been given a second chance at life, and they had made the most of it. As they sat together, watching the sunset on the horizon, Lena turned to John and said, "Do you remember the last day on Earth?" John smiled and took her hand. "Of course I do. It was the day that changed our lives forever." Lena nodded. "It was the day that we learned that love and connection were the most important things in life." John leaned over and kissed her. "And it was the day that we realized that we had each other, and that we could face anything together." As the sun finally set on their world, Lena and John knew that they had truly lived, and that they would always have each other.